So we're live now. So thank you very much for agreeing to sit for this during the pandemic. We've been trying to have a series of talks with people in the shul so we can learn about each other from a distance, because the reality is that it's safer for us to minimize our socializing right now. So for a lot of us, we've been struggling with that because we enjoy seeing each other. So we've had this series on Member Mondays, and I'd like to welcome Debbie Colby. And Debbie, thank you very much for taking the time to do this.
Thanks for asking me.
So you've been in the shul for a while, you've been in Richmond for a while, and I guess if you could kind of let us know, because a lot of people are relatively new to the community and the congregation. How did you first get started with Beth Israel?
Well, I came to Richmond for a year, and that was over 38 years ago, actually. I came for my first job out of graduate school, and I was loosely connected to Judaism at that time. But as time went on, those first couple of years in Richmond, I became more and more interested. And actually, a friend directed me to talk to the Chabad rabbi, who I started learning with. And from there, I met a few friends who were also kind of searching for more Judaism in their lives. And we decided one summer to go shul hopping. And let me just say that summer is not the best time to do that. But we went from one place to another. And when we got to KBI, a few of us just said, this is it. Even though we had no ties to Orthodox Judaism, we had no idea what was going on. We just felt like we were home.
That's really great. It is a very warm environment that we try to pride ourselves on as much as possible. And it's certainly, it's an effort in progress, but we know from past experience, many people have found it to be exactly as you have described it. So what have you seen in terms of changes in the greater Richmond area, just generally speaking, and Jewishly, since you came to Central Virginia, within the broader Jewish community, or the shul specifically? What are some changes that you've seen over the last 38 years?
Oh my, we have grown so much. And it's hard to separate what's changed in me from what's changed in the community, because of course my first few years I was here, I was not largely aware of what was going on in the Jewish community. But so I don't know how much it is that I became more aware of what was available and how much was things increased. But for instance, kosher food, when I first started keeping kosher, it was much more difficult than it is now. Now we can get almost everything we need locally. Not to say that I don't still visit Baltimore quite regularly, but it is nice to be able to run out to the store and get what we need. But also just different organizations and different programming, whatever, everything has increased over the years.
That's it is nice to see as people kind of continue on, they bring new ideas and energy and are able to create new opportunities for the members of the Richmond Jewish community. Maybe if you could describe for people who don't know, what is your professional background, and tell us a little bit about your career.
Well, I was an audiologist my whole career. I came here right out of graduate school. I took a job that was supposed to last for 1 year in the Chesterfield County Public Schools, and that job ended up lasting 21 years. I moved at that point to an ear, nose, and throat practice, which is what I originally wanted to do when I was in school. And I was there for 13 years until their practice just went downsizing, and I needed to find something else. So then I worked in a retail hearing aid establishment for a short time, a couple of years, before I was able to retire, which has been wonderful. It's been 3 years now, and I am thoroughly enjoying the freedom of retirement.
So are there any clients that kind of stick out in your mind over all that time? And any moments that you can think of, you say, wow, as an audiologist, this person really needed some professional help, and I was able to open up, help them open up the world so that they could function at a higher level. Any clients that kind of stick out or stories from your years practicing?
One of my favorite stories is a gentleman from a rural area not far from here came in and said, and he was in his 60s. He said, my girlfriend said, I have to do something. She's hit her breaking point. And I recommended hearing aids for him after testing. And when he came back to get the hearing aids, he brought his girlfriend with him. And as soon as I put them on him and adjusted them appropriately, he turned to her and said, now that I can hear you, will you marry me? That was my favorite.
That's a great one. That is such a powerful story. It really.
Yeah.
And besides, what you've done in terms of your energies professionally, in terms of your nonprofit work, people might not know that you're one of our prolific volunteers. If you can kind of describe in terms of some of the volunteering that you've done in the community, certainly it might be visible to people in terms of the food festival, but there are other programs as well that you've been involved in. So do you have a certain philosophy that you bring in terms of your volunteering? What are some of the volunteer positions that you've been a part of in terms of helping build community here?
First, I want to say that one of the things I had missed most about this period of isolation is volunteering. I just get a lot of energy from giving that energy to volunteerism. So I'm looking forward to getting back to it. My attitude about volunteering is if you can say yes, do. And instead of looking for an excuse, whether it's real or manufactured, try to look for a way to say yes. So of course I volunteered at KBI, been with the stuffed cabbage crew for quite some time, and various other volunteer efforts at KBI. When I first started becoming involved more Jewishly, I taught religious school at a Reformed temple here in town. That did not last very long for various reasons, but
Mhm.
I enjoyed the children. I enjoyed the opportunity to share what I did have to share with them. I've enjoyed working at the food bank as part of that crew. Um, just every little thing that comes up, if I can say yes, my attitude is that's what I should do.
Do you have a favorite food festival memory, or are there any food festivals that stick out? There've probably been almost a dozen now, if you add them all up, or more. Although my history could be off. Is there anything that kind of sticks out in your mind as being, one of the go-to people for the food festival? If you have any kind of memories that stick out in any way.
Well, I go back to when the food festival was being held in the social hall at KBI.
Right.
Before it was the major production it is now at the
Mhm.
JCC. So I have a lot of memories, but they kind of all blend together.
Right.
I I just love watching everybody volunteering, from the most involved to just the teeniest efforts. And people work so hard. I just feel like I'm only doing my little part towards the greater effort.
Mhm.
I love seeing all the customers come, people who might not be very connected Jewishly otherwise. Um, and they really look forward to like reconnecting with other Jews.
Now, I know that I've always been very impressed, inspired by your kosher travels. You have had some extensive Jewish traveling and kosher traveling in recent years and maybe beyond. Maybe if you could tell some of our viewers here about your experience in Africa and some of the other places that you've been as a kosher traveler.
For sure, my best trip was about 3 years ago when I went with a group to South Africa. We were led by Norman Goldwasser, and many people remember Norman from when he lived in Richmond, which was really a long time ago now.
Mhm.
Um, and it was a group of such diversity, all Jewish, except for one couple. This couple had won the trip through a website, and um, they were terrific. But the nice thing was that we all got along. Everybody switched around who they sat with and who they talked with, and from one end of the spectrum to the other Jewishly. And we traveled with a private chef, which made it incredibly easy and just wonderful. We didn't have to worry about where we were going to find our meals. Um, Other than that, the only kosher traveling I've done is to Israel, which of course I've been very fortunate to do several times. The last time I went was with Momentum, the formerly known as the Jewish Women's Renaissance Project, where I was a co-leader. And when I returned from that trip, my career kind of got turned upside down. And I'm sad to say that I was not as able to keep that commitment as I would have liked, but it still remains just a wonderful memory.
Yeah, and you were able to connect a little bit with Lori Palatnik, and which kind of brings me to the other to the Pesach programs. You know, some people have never been on a Pesach program. They don't really know what a Pesach program is or a Pesach hotel. And I know you connected with Lori, the founder of JWRP, at one of these programs. I think it was in Arizona. But I guess if you could describe what it's like to have a holiday in a hotel with a bunch of strangers. What is that experience like?
Oh my gosh, these PASEC programs are incredible. The catering, for instance, is just food from morning till night, into the wee hours of the morning again. And incredible, fantastic food that you can't believe is kosher, much less kosher for Passover. The programming at the programs I've chosen has been wonderful. Lori's been at a few different programs I've been at, where there are many different opportunities to learn at different levels. I will say, as a single person, it's not great going to a PASEC program because people travel with their own group and they stay with their own group. They don't really invite singles to join in. And so that was difficult. But otherwise, the PASEC programs are incredible. I would love for everybody to be able to go on one,
Yeah.
but they're not cheap.
Right. Yes. The year before I came to Richmond, before I formally entered the rabbinate, I had such an experience at a nice hotel in Mexico. I could tell that unless I was going as a staff person, it'd be hard pressed to kind of get to the Fairmont in Mayacoba, Mexico myself. Now, I know you've decided to be a part of the Life and Legacy program here at Shul, and I was wondering kind of what inspired you to be a part of that in terms of being motivated to sign up for that in terms of legacy giving long term.
Well, KBI has been so important in my life, and I want that to be able to happen for many, many other people in the future. So it was an easy decision to join this program and to help the future of KBI monetarily.
Yeah, and we appreciate that very much. And I know that your girls used to run around the shul, and and people here might not remember Marnina and Shayna, you know, from being in shul on a weekly basis. So if you could talk a little bit about your family.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that both of my girls are still nearby, and they're both productive adults. We went through some very rocky years in their teens, but we've come out of it quite well, better than one might expect with the ups and downs that we've had. I'm very fortunate. And now, of course, I have my grandson, Jace, and he's the one running around in shul, or he will be at least when we can get back to there.
Yeah, certainly many people kind of are missing, you know, it's on the one hand, we don't want kids running around the shul. On the other hand, we do want kids running around the shul. It's a very interesting, it's a very interesting issue. Who are some of the personalities over the years who had impact on you through the shul in terms of people who might, you know, still be with us or people who have since moved on or passed away? Who are some of the names over the years that you've been at KBI that have made a strong impression on you and were significant for you? Yeah.
The first and foremost would be Rabbi Lipschitz. He and his wife Ruth were so wonderful to me when I was first learning. I would sit in the row behind Ruth and look over her shoulder to see where she was in the sitter. I became a frequent guest at their Shabbos table. I changed many a diaper on their children just to be part of their family. Mm-hmm. And they had a profound influence on me.
And they made Aliyah. For people who don't know, right. So people who don't know Rabbi Lipschitz was one of my predecessors. he made Aliyah. I think he lives in Efrat, if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken, and he was here for 8 or 9 years, is something along those lines.
10 years. Uh-huh.
And I think that was back in the 80s. And
Right.
so yes, okay. So I'm just helping people kind of catch up as to who the Lifshitz family was.
Right. And then I already mentioned Norman Goldwasser, who was very active at Shul at that time. He was our unofficial chazan, and he was also the chaplain over at Beth Shalom Home. He did wonderful work with bringing teens over to the home back when it was in our neighborhood. And he and his wife also were very influential with inviting me into their home and welcoming me and helping me learn along the way. Ruth and Ralph Fryer, who now live in Baltimore, were one of the earliest families to include me for Shabbos and holiday meals, and I'm still close with them. Just so many people, watching people like Harriet Rochkin and Fran Rojas and so many others who did their best to volunteer for KBI. They were wonderful role models for me. I've been very fortunate. There have been so many.
And you're of course a recipient of the Eshes Chayil Award here as well, and a very illustrious award and well deserved, well earned. What was it like coming from the Midwest, coming from your hometown area of Chicago or Illinois, and then moving to Southern culture or Southern Judaism? Was there an adjustment at all with that?
Not really. I went to college and graduate school in Peoria, Illinois, which is obviously a lot smaller than my hometown in suburban Chicago. So it was kind of a good transition of how it was to be in a smaller city. And when I came here, I was fortunate. I was traveling from school to school within Chesterfield County, so I met a lot of people very quickly. And it was pretty easy to adjust. I like the slightly slower pace. I like better manners. Kindness is very important to me. So I like that about the South. It wasn't very difficult to adjust at all.
Did you serve in any boards in a formal capacity, either at the shul? So what boards were you on?
Well, I was on the KBI board for, I don't know, I think about 20 years. I was vice president of the shul at one point when Chuck Lesson was president. And I also was president of the sisterhood for 3 years, which was something I was especially proud of because my mother had been president of our sisterhood growing up in our Reform Temple for 3 years as well. And so she was a wonderful role model in that way and in so many ways.
Very cool. Very cool.
And then I was also on the board of RTA for, I don't know, I think about 20 years also.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a lot of time. It's a lot of service. And, you have done a lot for continuity and to help the Jewish community thrive. So definitely want to thank you for that. We hope that some people will watch this and learn a little bit more about you and that they'll watch the other the videos in our series here. And we hope and pray that people get better, that they're healthy, they stay healthy, and that we're able to come together in person as soon as possible or as soon as advisable. So thank you very much again for your time. And we're recording this on Erev Shabbos and the last day of Hanukkah. So a happy Hanukkah and a good Erev Shabbos. And hopefully we'll see you in person soon.
God willing.
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Thanks.